Hi everyone, I'm Mental Health Matt. Welcome to my channel. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my top 3 mental health tips for moving abroad. Now, the reason I picked this topic is because I've lived in a number of different countries throughout my 33 years on this planet. I've lived in 11 different countries. The list of those, for those of you who might be interested, is the UK, where I'm originally from, Ireland, the United States, where I currently am, Canada, Mexico, France, Spain, the Czech Republic, Poland, Russia, and Turkey. So those are the 11 countries that I've lived in. And I've done a lot of moving backwards and forwards, moving around between different cultures, different languages, different environments. And I wanted to pass on some of the things that I think have been most important for me over the years in terms of adjusting to a new culture and maintaining a balanced approach to my mental health during that time. So maintaining an even keel, not falling victim to depression, anxiety, things like that. So the first one, top tip number one, piece of advice number one, is going to be to focus on that balance. So focus on the balance between the old and the new. That might be the old life that you had before you moved, let's say, a life that you had back home in a previous environment, and then the new life that you're trying to build for yourself in a new place. And the reason why that balance is so important is because the balance is what helps you to manage the change that you're going through. It forces you to basically slow down the very difficult process of transitioning from one environment to a new one. It doesn't mean you're just drawing a hard line between the two of them. You're not saying everything about my life is going to be different from this point onwards, but you're also not trying to keep everything the same, because that isn't going to work either. Keeping things the same is not why you moved. Keeping things the same is not an option in most cases. You're going to have to adjust to new things. But those reminders of home that keep you from potentially falling into a depression because you feel like you're detached from the things that are important to you, those are going to be very crucial. And I definitely believe that those can be very significant in helping people to adjust to a new environment over time. So that's number one. Top tip number one, strike a balance between the old and the new. Top tip number two is going to be to take an approach of curiosity towards the new culture that you're in. So that might mean learning a new language. In my case, I was already studying French in my college degree, so I didn't have to take that much of a curious attitude to it because I already had a good familiarity with it. But when I was in Spain, I made an effort to learn some Spanish. When I was even in Poland, Czech Republic, I made an effort to learn a bit of those languages too, because it really, really helps. And then at the same time, understanding the cultural side of where you're actually moving to, understanding the new environment that you're in, maybe learning a bit about the history of it, learning about what some of the cultural traditions might be. The great thing about that is it helps you to feel like more of a part of that new environment. It doesn't make you feel quite so detached and alienated from it. So the more you know about that culture, the more familiar you feel with it, and the more at home you're going to start to feel over time, particularly as your language skill might develop. It's going to reduce that feeling of culture shock that you get when you first arrive and you feel like everything is very unfamiliar. So that aspect there, I think, played a big role for me. That curiosity of being willing to investigate things that felt new, being willing to try to discover new potential avenues that I hadn't explored before, new activities that I might take part in that I had never tried before and I actually really enjoyed, new places to hang out, new food, all that kind of thing. Taking that curious approach allowed me to feel more familiar with the environment that I was in, and it slightly neutralized that feeling of alienation that you get at the beginning. So that's tip number two. Tip number three is to have some kind of methodology of keeping track of the differences between where you are now and where you were before that might not be necessarily the most obvious. So for example, if you discover that the system for applying for a driver's license in your new country compared to your old country is very, very different, write that down, because that information, that process is very different, is possibly going to come in useful at some point. Even if it's something very, very simple, even if it's something about the way that transactions are conducted in stores. So for example, for me here, understanding that in American stores compared to in the UK, prices are listed with tax excluded, as opposed to in most of Europe where they're listed with tax included, that's a useful thing to know because you have to account for everything in a store being slightly more expensive than you think it's going to be. So all these little things can make a difference, because if you note them down and you can remember them more easily, that as well is going to reduce the feeling of alienation over time, because it's going to reduce that constant reminder of something unexpected. You're going to inherently remember that these things are different, and it's going to feel natural and it's going to feel normal quite quickly, as opposed to having this constant reminder of being poked by things that you forgot about that are actually different from how they might be back at home. So whether it's a list, a document that you maintain that basically just allows you to write all these things down that are different, whether it's something that you do kind of collaboratively with other people, perhaps you have a method where you discuss with somebody what the differences are, what the small sort of micro level differences are. If you have somebody that has been through a similar experience, whatever methodology you take, having some way available to you of reminding yourself of what the small differences are, the micro level differences, so that they don't take you by surprise when they actually come up and they're something you have to deal with, that can really make a difference. Because particularly in the moments of life where there's a little bit of pressure on you or things get quite stressful, remembering a vital piece of information, like for example, well, for me, it's in the US, it's dialing 911 instead of 999 back in the UK, right? And I know that everybody kind of knows that anyway, because it's a sort of cultural thing that people are aware of from movies and things like that. But let's say I was in a different country other than the US, it would be very important for me to know what the emergency services number was in that country. So all these little things really do make a difference. And that's tip number 3. Keep track of those unexpected differences and have somewhere that you can remind yourself, some methodology that you can remind yourself of what those differences are, so that when they become important, you don't forget them. All right, guys, let's just recap. Number 1, strike a balance between the old and the new. That was the first tip. Number 2 is take a curious approach to the new culture. Number 3 is to keep track of those unexpected differences, because they might come in handy later on. So thanks guys for watching. I hope this video has been informative for you. Please do drop a like down below if you like this video. Please do drop me a comment if you have any experiences across cultures that have affected your mental health, that have allowed you to maybe gain a greater insight into how to adapt in these circumstances. I would be happy to hear from you guys right below this video. Do share this video with anybody that has anybody in your life that has moved across cultures that you think might benefit from it, or if you know somebody who's going to be moving very soon, something like that. And finally, do subscribe to the channel, because it does help me out a lot. I will be dropping more videos here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Pacific time. I'm also going to be streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/mentalhealthmatt on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at noon Pacific time once again. So hopefully you guys can join me there for some games, some mental health chats, some interviews, all sorts of different stuff over on the Twitch channel. So thank you guys for watching once again. I appreciate you being here. I'll be back soon in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.